never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Hey, folks, how you doing? Hope you're doing all right for a Friday evening, and I'm sorry about last night. I was just not very well yesterday. Seem to have picked up again today. Weird as. Found the fenders. Well, maybe that helped. Allowed to say that this early in the broadcast? I don't know. We'll find out. Might get taken off yet. I trust your week has been good, and if it hasn't been good, then I trust it's improving from where it was at its lowest. And our prayers and thoughts are with so many of you as you are battling your way through whatever it happens to be at this time, whether it be something like Wapta's going through or something like Margie's going through, or indeed something that, you know, many others of you may not be a physical thing for you. For instance, you might be a carer for somebody else, and if they're going through that at the moment, then that can have its trying moments too. So just know that you're loved, you're thought of in the highest of ways, and we are working to level ourselves up to be something truly spectacular. And seems the country's leveling itself up all over the place at the moment, particularly with regard to excitement with Pauline Hanson. So we'll get to talking about that. Before we get into that, there are a couple of things I wanted to share. This face, that is the great Black Sheep, who now apparently has his own hat line. I'm not exactly sure where he got the hat, but he did have it made up. So for anybody who is heading anywhere from southeast Queensland to the Cape York Peninsula over the next few weeks, keep an eye out for that bloke in that hat. And if you spot him, it's pretty easy. Black Sheep's his name. Tasmania is where he comes from. He said they cut his other head off and he occasionally gets lonely. So if you want to go up for a chat, he's all up for it. And Margie sent us in a picture. What a beautiful shot. That's Noosa Beach in late afternoon. Absolutely lovely, Margie. Must have been nice going out there for the Arvo. Thank you very much for sending that through. All right. It is that time of the week where we bring in the bloke who this time next week we'll be having live sit-down speaking together. The waving will be in person. The waving wonder. I'm looking forward to seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, well, we're seeing if we can sabotage the plane before it gets here, but yeah.
Oh, how bad are you going to feel if something happens to the first aeroplane in Australia in I don't know how long to actually have something fatal go wrong with it while I happen to be on it? How bad are you going to feel?
That would really suck. I have to be honest, that would really, really suck. Just for all the other people.
Jinxed me now. What's the chat got to say about that? I mean, fair dinkum, folks. Now I don't know if I can get on the plane. You've jinxed me. It's a bad thing. God, horrible. God.
It seems that seems to be going around at the moment. I mean, after all, we've got this lovely message from Sandy, just letting us know they've had a rough week and many rescues and sick donkeys seems to be all coming in at once. I've found that a bit with the computer business too. It's all happened all at once. So apparently,
you've been flat out for the last couple of weeks. Well, there has been a lot of strange frequencies bashing the Earth. There was a huge solar flare a week or so ago, and we have been bathed in all sorts of frequencies for a little over a week. Some at their strongest in the middle of the week, and I'm wondering if that hasn't been partly what's affected me. I know these sorts of things have dragged the life out of me before. I've just felt like a wet dish rag being dragged through the sink backwards. Big solar eruptions. And if Tony is in the chat, maybe he can throw a bit more light on it, because he's sort of been following those sorts of things a little bit, I think. Or if he's not, Mick is. So Mick, if you're in the chat, maybe you can post up. Yeah. But it's funny how they call airport terminals. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, words mean things. I've been saying that basically since the first show. And a lot of people have forgotten what the words actually mean, because in many cases the words have been changed. Carl, don't
And
get
what
on
the
the
rate
plane.
is the
Make
point.
sure you go in the plane. Oh, fair dinkum. I wouldn't mind that whole. Well, for whatever the flight time is, 2.5 hours to Adelaide. It's probably a bit long. I've got no fingernails, so yeah, I don't even know if I'd be off the wing before the aircraft got off the ground. I've got a sneaking suspicion. And not being the world's, fittest bloke.
You wouldn't be able to run to catch up with it.
No, I'd act as my own parachute.
Well, with a couple of the T-shirts we bought you over the past year, you could just hold one out and hope that worked.
That's very true. We do have some very large T-shirts floating around in the background there. So tonight's going to be an interesting bit of a chat. There has been quite a lot of, well, for the want of a better term, weird shit going on. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm rubbing my hands together in one regard, because we are seeing such a orange wave flooding across the country. And then, on the other hand, I'm a little bit concerned because of the power and strength of that wave not having a shore to wash up on at the moment. And we spoke about this earlier this week, and the number of candidates that One Nation may have already approved. We don't know the number, but we know that they'll be focusing very hard on Victoria at the moment, because that is the next election of interest that they will be going to. And just so you know, the Fighting Fund currently sits at, where target at the moment is 4.9 million. They've currently raised from 75,504 Aussies, $4,719,703. So they've picked up $19,700 since I last updated that, which was mid-afternoon. So they're churning over still a pretty reasonable rate when it comes to donation rates, at least at this juncture, don't you think?
Yeah. Now, think about this, though. We all know that everybody is struggling like crap in Australia to even survive. So for these people to be digging into their pockets and donating, how much of that is angst and how much of that is saying, right, we're moving forward with a totally different party, F you?
How much of that is donated by people who have an expectation, as Pauline and the One Nation Party have said, they're going to use this to fire the liar? The only way that you can fire the liar is to get bums on seats in both the lower and upper houses of the parliaments that have both houses, and dominate the ones that don't. So that requires getting good candidates, having great policy, and moving forward. Now, that all takes time and costs money. I don't know, and I didn't see any of the ads during State of Origin the other night, if they did play the ad, if they didn't play the ad. They got enough. It got played enough times in news bulletins the day before the State of Origin last Tuesday. The liar ad that they built just out of Albanese's own words. But today I was so heartened to see, and I don't normally do this kind of thing, folks, but I was so heartened to see that they have released a new commercial. And this is one of, if not the best political commercial I have ever seen. Watch this.
Oh, man, One Nation have raised millions of dollars with this Fire the Liar campaign. And it keeps going up. How am I going to lie my way out of this? Albo, have you considered telling the truth? Telling the truth, eh? I love mass migration. It's destroying everything. I don't care about your power bills. Net zero is a scam. I love the ISIS brides because votes in West Sydney are more important than national security. I cashed out on all my investment properties right before I changed the rules. Isn't that convenient? Isn't it obvious? I've got no idea what I'm doing. Please fire me, please. Stop me before I do any more damage, please. Nah, I'll just stick to the lies. What? Shoulder Angel Albo, did you just donate as well? It's money well spent, you liar.
Authorised by P. Hansen for Pauline Hanson's One Nation Brisbane.
Yeah, I love that one. I saw that one today as well.
Only released today, but absolutely stunning. And if they can release one of those every fortnight from now for the next 2 months, and that'll cost something. I mean, even though they're using Filipino automated artists and AI in a lot of cases to create backgrounds and all this sort of stuff, the effectiveness of it is pretty good. That's going to get shared by I don't know how many tens of thousands of people, and it's going to irritate those of the left quite a lot. But it's great that they've got a fighting fund is where I'm getting to. So what is the expectation of shoulder angel elbows who have donated and under the expectation of they're going to fire the liars because, it's not just Elbow. He's just the head of the pack at the moment. But they've all, Bowen, Chris Bowen, my God, the climate crier, and Tony Burke if you want to give him his real name. They are three that have to go. Penny Wong, Katie Gallagher, Murray Watt.
Definitely.
Another three.
Murray's going to go.
Three senators, Tim Ayres, another senator, Don Farrell, the special minister of state who gets to sign our election writs. You watch the next election writ will come out and have Don Farrell's signature on it. It won't have the Governor General's. The Governor General will witness it.
Honestly, I don't care whether they witness or they play their tomfoolery, whatever they do. We just need a massive amount of people, so much so that it does what happens in the US and just over trumps any possibility they've got of cheating it.
It floods them.
And once that's there and One Nation's in and they start making changes, if it's to our benefit, it's great. If it's not, well, we've still won. I've said that before because we just proved the system doesn't work. So, but
And the next step can be taken, at which point we'd probably be looking to our next guest for a bit of leadership.
Yeah. Well, before we bring him on, I have a comment about the banner roll down that happened on her speech to all the so-called journalists out there.
Yes.
If someone wants to go back and have a look at that, and see it coming down, and when she realizes it's happening, she turns around, she looks at it, and then turns back. Have a close look at her face, because she looked at that and she smiled as she turned back.
Yeah,
she was smiling. She like two things. One, she thought it was probably funny because she's that thick-skinned now, and two, it just proved how stupid and idiotic some people are. And this is the only thing they can do. I mean, the whole job and not getting a wage increase, I understand that. Being from running my own business, if you have to suddenly pay everybody more money and you're already on the bones of the bum, then those people are going to get less money because they're going to be on the bloody dole.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah,
absolutely.
Anyway, let's let you go and introduce our wonderful guest.
All right. Well, our guest tonight is going to come on and have a bit of a chat about a few things. One of those things will be the fact that he is attempting at this point to become a candidate for One Nation in Victoria. We all know that the Victorian state election is due in November. However, there is a very significant chance, no confidence motion was being brought forward. I don't know whether or not there is any hope of getting the numbers to push it through, but no confidence motion, not just in Jacinta Allen, but in the Labor government, was being brought forward. And should that be able to get through, that will bring on an election sooner. Probably 5 weeks is the time that everybody would have from the date that they announced, or date that sort of thing happened. And One Nation at this point, I don't think have named any Victorian candidates. They are telling us that they are going through the process, and now we have one of the people who is in the process of going through the process. And we had a great long chat today, and Trevor's been on this show many times, and I've got nothing but the highest regard for the man. He is a solid gold citizen as far as I'm concerned, and exactly the kind of bloke you want around in a crisis. Doesn't matter whether that crisis is an end of the world type crisis, as his other job, Trevor the Prepper, might lead you towards. He's about crisis management. It doesn't matter what the crisis is, but if it means that you haven't got any power, you haven't got any refrigeration, you haven't got any food, you haven't got any shelter, then he's definitely the bloke that you'd probably want standing up and helping you. And he knows a bit about power grids as well. So put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Trevor Anderi, who's sitting in the bottom of his very dark room at the moment, by the look of it. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good.
Hey, Vince.
Hey, Trevor. This is your incognito view, so that when you public go out and meet the public, they won't know who you are.
Yeah, something like that.
We're going to have to get one of those beauty lights.
Oh well, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's mood lighting. I'm in the spotlight all day, every day. Everywhere I go, everyone's waving their horn and coming over and talking to me, and like it's really. I've always been a very personable person, but it's really becoming next level now. It's really becoming next level, and with everything, like with chatbots attacking me, with trolls, with really positive stuff. I had an 80, I think she's 86 or 83. Right. One of the people that's following me now, I've had a couple of 100,000 views on Facebook since I announced that I'm going to be a prospective candidate. And this lady, she's in her 80s, and she FaceTimed me the other day and had this dirty great big chat. And she said, as soon as you get endorsed, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to be your assistant. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go around with you.
Wonderful.
In her 80s, because well, it is, Carl,
when
because
you've got people like that contacting you. So we should point out, people in Victoria, the Rippon electorate is the electorate where nearly called you Peter, Andrei. Trevor is going to be running. God, if I called you Peter, I'm going to apologise right now. Slap me upside the head. Vince, get ready for that. AI fuck up.
I can deliver that on landing in Adelaide.
Very true. So, yeah, the Rippon electorate in Victoria, which is sort of west of Ballarat. Just give us an outline of the area.
Okay, so it goes from the corner of Ballarat and it goes way out past Kenya. So everything from subdivisions to 10,000 acre farms. Like it's all up. The area of Rippon is 14,440 square kilometres. It's a massive electorate. And it's literally the most marginal electorate that there is in Victoria. It can be won or lost with less than 50 votes.
So, what are the big concerns for the people in that electorate at the moment?
Well, obviously, it's different depending on where you are. If you're in a subdivision or if you're on a property. So, a lot of the big concerns we've got are. There are volunteer firefighters having to pay the emergency fire service levy, even though they spoke to Martha Hayward, the Labor woman, and she was like, oh, yeah, I understand, went in and then went, yeah, Albo's saying yes, so yeah, you're paying it. You've got the V&I towers, so we've got all these 85-metre tall transmission towers for pumping renewables across. But what I've uncovered recently is there's also a plan in Ballarat for a twin data centre. Now, I covered that at Elmhurst, we've got the largest condenser in Australia, which we spoke about the other week. So it can stabilise 250 megawatts of power, which is enough. That'll easily do 3 really big data centres, easy, right? And so we're starting to find out what all the jigsaw puzzle pieces are. And one of the reasons that I'm wearing my green beanie is this week's little motto is the prophetic wisdom that Kermit the Frog tried instilling in us our whole childhood of it's not easy being green. And the trouble is the greenwashing. We've got the entire left has been sold on the green dream. And now I'm starting to unpack and showing them, okay, let's look at the fire risk of what a couple of million litres of diesel with 1,000 tonne of lithium will do in a fire and what that's like to fight. Let's look at where the water's going to come from, where the water's going to pump out to, how much renewables we know is already pre-committed to renewables. So the thing is, we've got a lot of different things, but a lot of the core of it is about roads, is about employment.
Yeah.
So one of the things, as you'd be aware, I've got a really big background in tourism. So trying to boost regional tourism to get money from Melbourne and crossing from Melbourne and Adelaide across the Great West, the Western Highway, to stop in town, do some stuff, blow some dough, and then as the tide rises, all the boats rise with it. So they're really some of our big problems. And then other problems we've got is in terms of grey corruption.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, hang on. Before we get on to that, the data centre, the twin data centres thing that you've discovered they want to put into Ararat, where are they going to get that water from? Lake Belfield or, one of the other lakes?
Just to clarify, there are major data centres in Adelaide and they're not running water through them. They're air-cooled.
Yes. So the thing is, on my Facebook page, there is a data center guy in Iowa who makes a statement. He owned the first privately owned data center in the state of Iowa. He builds them, and he's actually contacted councils over there saying, why don't you talk to me, because I don't even use a gallon of water on mine. But this is out of his own words. It's in his own words. It's on my Facebook page, Trevor Anderi. You can see it for yourself, where he says the trouble is mega companies like Google and that, they're not going to spend the big dollars on these specially cooled ones. They're just going to sit there and just deplete the aquifers because they're going to do it for pennies. And then when it's gone to shit, they'll walk out, they'll go away. A big concern for us is it's been announced today in the news cycle, Australia is going to be the second major AI data center hub in the world. And we're going to have the first quantum computer campus up in Queensland.
Well, can't think of a better state for it, to be honest. But I'm both terrified and encouraged at the same time to hear that news. Thank you, Silver Fox, for your donation. Love you, brother. And I got told the other day that your surgery didn't go ahead as planned. So I hope that you're not hobbling around too badly and that everything gets sorted out. Is it next week? I think, hopefully, maybe you get to go in. So fingers crossed. Now, will One Nation look after robot rights or the rights of the people they replace? That is the very interesting question I think you've raised, given that I'm going to, and look, we're not going to ask Trevor to comment on what One Nation may or may not do here. He's a prospective candidate, so, we might get his opinion on what he'd like to do. At the moment, in mainstream media, 7-Eleven are under a bit of pressure because their corporate offices are unfairly, it's being said, taking back certain stores from people who in some cases have invested, $800,000 to $1 million or more in these businesses, and they're being allowed to expire the franchise, if you like, and the franchisee has to hand the keys back, if you like, to the store and everything else, and they get nothing out of it. Very unfair kind of practice. So, I'd like to see some sort of things done around that area, but One Nation probably aren't in a position to do much about that at this stage either. I forget now why I had to tell that story. So, but what are your thoughts on it, Trev?
Rights. That was workers' rights related and ownership of businesses because they're taking them back.
So the fella that a current affair were out the front of at 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning, I think it was, when the corporates came back and said, righto, we're taking the store back, wasn't because they'd found a buyer for $1 million, but head office had knocked them back. It's being put forward that 7-Eleven are potentially doing this on purpose so they don't have to pay any money out to the people who've invested in the franchise.
Quite Well, probably.
Yeah, that's a man
There
named,
are-
named Jarwin.
And it is legal. It's legal, but
Yeah, because
you
it's
know,
written in the
these-
contract.
what sort of people do we want? I mean, this gets down to what sort of people are we going to get into our parliaments? And Trev, I believe you're one of the good people. We have to elevate our ways so much, but the biggest thing we have to change before we can elevate ourselves is greed. We have to stop this desire to always have more. And corporate greed leads the way. There are two other really significant things that we've got to fix too, I think, before we can level up. But let's fix greed first. Once we can fix greed, then, you know, we're going to do very well. And I think One Nation would be in agreement that if we can stop many people being so greedy, the greedy people who are ripping off the NDIS, they think they're ripping off the government. They're only ripping us off. They're only ripping themselves off. And ultimately, they're the people who are doing the damage to those who are going to miss out in years going forward on what NDS programming they might have been able to get, because assholes have robbed the system blind out of greed.
Yep.
And now the second point feeds into that. You can fix it by being accountable. And if you've ripped something off from the system, be accountable for it. Don't hide it. If you've made a bad choice, if you've made a bad decision, we all do it. We all have done it. We all are going to do it again. That's okay. We learn from that, but we have to be accountable for our decisions. You're scoffing, Vince?
No, I'm not scoffing. I'm laughing because isn't that the way the government's pushing us to do that now, to start ripping the system off, because they've been ripping us off for so bloody long? And thank you, AJ Pipemaster.
Thank you, mate. We will have coffees in Adelaide next Thursday. Can't tell you the time just yet, but if you're flying to Adelaide next Thursday morning, there's a good chance you'll be on the same flight as me.
Yep.
Especially if it's early.
So don't you drink my coffee.
Hang on, I'm the one that introduced you to good coffee.
That's true. Yeah, I have to agree with that. Trevor, right? Yeah. If we let Carl continue to talk, we'll never get any questions in, mate. So we better try and throw a couple your way. So you're making the application at the moment for One Nation, and there's some processes to go through, I believe. Yeah.
So I've already had some talks with executives. I was a bit privileged with that. So I've had to become a member. I've had to put in an application. I've had to submit a federal clearance, which is obviously passed and all that sort of stuff. The thing that's really interesting, like we are in the craziest political time right now. The news cycle should be going nana over this, and I'll tell you why. So we've had over 1,200 applications for candidates in Victoria alone. Like, it's crazy. And as everybody knows, Labor, like Albo's got 59 political advisors. The Greens have got 15. One Nation's got 2 because they've got to be approved by the PM. So the trouble is we've now got 1,200 people applying, and One Nation is scrutinising like crazy on that and weighing everything up, right? Like you can imagine with me, they know that I know people in the freedom movement. They'd be aware that 1.4 million cars went to the biggest protest in Australia's history, and that didn't even make it onto the news. But we all know, and they know that I've got links with farmers, I've got links with hunters, I've got, all this, and I'm sensible green. Like I've got a research and share Indigenous cultural qualification and all sorts of stuff, right? But they're trying to weigh up all the pros and all the cons on 1,200 people. And they want to do it in such a way because they do want to take government. No ifs or buts, they're going for government. Now, the trouble is we had until, and I say we, had until November the 28th for the state elections. right? So if they thought they still had a few weeks to go through all those people and work out who's the actual best fit as a candidate for that area, because we're all about, well, they're all about, and hopefully I'm all about, the best fit for that area, and you voting for what your constituents want, not what people in St Kilda want, but like me here in rural Victoria, what people need and want here, because it's very different. Now, the trouble is, they thought they had all of this time. Now, here is the masterstroke, and I'm going to bet you, speaking of airport terminal lounges, I'm going to bet you that a couple of brainiacs from Liberal and Labor crossed paths at a Qantas lounge or something like that and went, right, One Nation is going to wipe the floor with a lot of our leadership. Like, I know here, Martha Hayward from Labor, I know that they're going to redirect massive funds from the City of Melbourne fighting campaign to here, because they don't want to lose her. Because as you've said, once you start knocking off all of these heads and you've lost all your star players, your team's just an empty thing. So the trouble is, a couple of brainy people have got together and gone, okay, we've got a really unique problem here. For the first time in 40 years or something, another party looks like it can get somewhere. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to get rid of this crappy premier, because it is the rotten orange in the bowl that is going to poison all the other oranges in the Labor bowl. How do we get rid of Jacinta Allen? Right? So Liberal and Labor, I reckon, would have done a deal where they said, okay, my enemy's enemy is my friend. We're going to propose no confidence. So we're going to let her know either you're going to resign or we're going to try and kick you out. But they're going to need Labor to go in with Jess Wilson and the coalition to make that happen. Now, I'm going to bet, because you can imagine the ego stroking that is going to be required to fall on your sword like that. So she would have all her Labor people turn around going, look, you know, it's not your fault that all these corrupt bikies did the wrong thing and stole $15 billion.
But there's also a $15 billion fund there for her to get paid off out of. So, you know,
hang on one sec, Carl. Just let me unpack the last thing. I've only got 30 seconds more on it. So then what's going to happen? I'll predict within the next 72 hours. I'll predict that they're going to turn around. Labor's going to say, look, here's the go. If you leave, you're always going to be looked at as a good party person. You're always welcome to come back in and have the meetings and blah, blah, and get your ego puffed up about you were trying to be a good premier because you did the right thing to make it that One Nation's wave didn't sweep right over everybody. So what that's going to mean is that election will then come 4 months earlier. That puts it at August. We still haven't got candidates endorsed. Right? Let's say it takes 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks tops, right, to actually finalise who those candidates are, right? I will be amazed if we've got between 5 and 6 weeks from the announcing of all the endorsed candidates until the election to actually campaign. So so it is an absolute masterstroke of politics. But the big thing that they've got going against them is Pauline Hanson's been singing the same song for 3 decades. She's now got Barnaby Joyce, which gives her a bit of political clout because he's been the deputy in the big house before, right? And now you've got all of these people coming on who are known, who are advocates, who have got media presence. I was speaking with one of the executives and I said, has anybody been interviewed by the media that's a potential candidate? Has anybody been interviewed as much as me? And he said, actually, you'd be surprised, Trevor. He said, there's actually a couple of people that probably have had the same level of media experience as you, because I've been interviewed hundreds of times. And a part of that situation is who's got the clout, who's got the backbone, who's going to pony up their own dough? Who's going to put in the sweat and the work and the effort? Who's already got a big established community behind them that they've looked after that's going to say, yeah, we're all for you, and more are going to pile on because of that belief?
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about that for a minute. So political parties are very happy to have people up as candidates. Now, One Nation have raised, as we said earlier, 1.7 at the moment, going to 4.7, going to 4.9 million. They'll probably get that before the middle of next week. So they've certainly got a fighting fund that can help people get into the game, so to speak. But they're going to be asking, and I'm sure you've been asked in the selection process, how much money are you prepared to commit to the process? And in that asking, what they're doing is incentivizing you to go as hard as you possibly can, because you can get that money back. If you win the seat, you will have won enough votes to be paid for each vote that you get, and that will more than cover what you've put into it and actually give you a bit of money in your fighting fund going forward. So there is a reason that they ask for that sort of commitment. The problem is there are a great many One Nation voters who don't have a huge amount, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 tucked away, that they are prepared to commit to an election they may lose because of, like you say, Labor and Liberal teaming up together and doing a deal. So One Nation have to convince these people to commit that money. I think it's a good commitment to make, whatever you can afford. And I think you should be telling One Nation, you match me dollar for dollar. If I put in $10,000 or if I put in $5,000, you put in $5,000. If I put in 10, you put in 10. If you are in a seat, and you are in a seat that is marginal, that doesn't make it the hardest seat to win in Victoria. It makes it amongst the easiest. The fact that it is marginal, and so marginal at that, it will come down to you going out and asking and putting the local Labor candidate on the spot in what will be town halls that will happen in the lead up to this election. And my understanding is that whether One Nation are going to have you as a nominated candidate or not, you're going to be running as an independent if that's the case. Is that right?
Ooh, juicy question. Juicy question. So, juicy question. He's out for the scoop. So, this has been discussed. You are correct. I have discussed matching dollar for dollar. It is what you would call a massive, huge, significant amounts. It's not go to Bali money. That's what I've put forward because I'm all in. I'm a community advocate. I'm aware of grey corruption and all this stuff in the area that I want to fix. And I know that you need to come along with the big wide room, and that's the only way it's going to happen. So that's one of the things. The other thing that possibly would be on the cards is perhaps a deal for all the advocacy files that I've had that have been through the hands of such people as Louise Daly, Beverly MacArthur, Nick Staycos, Sonia Kilkenny, Dan T, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on, that literally did nothing over the last 5 years of all the advocacy I've done. The only way that I could imagine myself not running is if they put up a candidate that I believe was better than myself, which I've stated. If a person was truly somebody that I believe, okay, now that person's going to do a better job than me, right? And they will take all the advocacy files that we've got with IBAC, with VCAT, with the local government inspectorate, with the ombudsman, etc. And they said, we're not just going to write one little letter and go, okay, can you look at this? We're going to follow through all of these things, right? In that instance, I would be prepared to help a candidate for One Nation who they deem more suitable than myself.
Yep.
Or I would not run as, or I would not run as an independent, because I assure you that all the executive of One Nation are absolutely aware of how important the advocacy is, not only to myself, but all the different people, whistleblowers and everything that have come to me over the years. And so that would constitute, if I became the MLA, all of this sort of work is approximately 30% of what your purview is in that role. And I've had very deep talks with executives on what that would mean in my role and the reasons why, and they're across all of this. So they're weighing all of that up.
Very good. Well, mate, best of luck with it. I want you to be that person that represents the people of Rippon in this election going forward in Victoria. I'm not sure nobody else, as far as I know, has nominated. And I guess now that I've done this semi-political ad for you, I have to throw the doors open to anybody else that wants to stand up in your area. And that offer is open, of course. And there'll be many farmers who are probably thinking about putting their hand up for this, people who are now fighting, V&I West and those transmission line proposals, amongst other things, and data centres, and people who are just sick and tired of breaking wheels on roads in Victoria.
Yes.
Dave Hughes broke another $1,000 Volvo wheel, apparently. Boo-hoo, Dave. That's the second one. Look, he charges when he does a corporate gig, he charges $35,000 to $55,000 to do half an hour.
Yeah, he said quite plainly that he could afford it, and he was just doing the whizzing for everybody else. He couldn't.
Of interest, I've recently reached out to Dave Hughes' management because I've been on his television show once, and I've been interviewed by him on radio twice. So I actually sent him a little thing just saying, hey, remember me? Because I remember there was one time on radio, and this was quite a few years ago now, this might have been 4 years ago, where at some point it seemed he'd become aware of the concerns that many of us were raising about COVID. And I remember at one point, he actually let me on radio say things like Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari, and to my knowledge, I'm the first one that ever got away with that on big radio with a couple of 100,000 listening people. And he didn't comment on it, but he let me say it. And I really think that Dave Hughes has had a moment. And I suppose in our maturity as people, as we get older and we approach the end, the closer to the end of our hourglass of life, we become more aware of what we're doing and what our purpose is in life and whatever. So I've actually reached out to him to say, if at some point you'd like to chat again, I'd like to chat to you, because I really see that, as he says, not everybody has a platform. And as you just said, Vince, he did say, fortunately, I've got the money to pay for it, but not everybody does, right. And he also says, I've got the platform to speak about the things for the people who've got no platform, who this pisses off every day.
That's what the Voice of Freedom was named for.
Yep.
What was our tagline written on the side of the bus? It's your voice.
I'm going to ask the next question, Trev.
Yeah.
Right. Here's one that you may get asked down the track. So if you get nominated as running for the position and you actually win a seat in Parliament, how much of a guarantee can you give us that you will stay with the One Nation Party and keep that force alive?
Oh, Vince, that's an awesome question. You'd be amazed the questions that I've been asked by the executive on similar things. They've said, all right, you're the most interviewed prepper in Australia. If you announce you're a candidate, media's going to be all over you. Even out of just the novelty value, they will be all over you. Why aren't you running for independent? And I've said, because there's so many things I want to fix out here, and because there are a lot of things that One Nation says and does that I align with, right? The thing is, I don't see any value in trying to kick a ball. I'll give you an example. One of the executives regularly calls me and will spend half an hour, and I know that they are so crazy busy, it's crazy right now. One of the executive will regularly ring me and kind of mentor me, right? And I really see that that's a big thing. So one of the reasons that I like their brand is Pauline and Malcolm both stood up to COVID, right? And that is something very near and dear to me. Having only seen my daughter in 30 days in 2 years because of the lockdowns, that is a thing that says to me, backbone, right? And so for me, I believe honestly that the power of an independent, you can have a little bill. Oh, please, can you vote for my little bill? And I'll nod to all your things, right? I don't want to be that guy. I think anybody that's ever seen me on television or heard me on a radio or anything like that, or done a course with me or something, knows that I'm the real deal. And I really feel that where I'm going to be best utilised is on a team. And I've actually said this to Warren Pickering, the state president, and to the others, All right. If you give me an orange shirt, give me an orange shirt and put a number 7 on the back of it, because I want you to know that I'm a team player. I can pass a ball, I can kick a ball, I can take a hit, right? And I can run down the field, right? And I've really, really made that blatantly obvious to them all in no uncertain terms. I've actually told them, I want an orange shirt with number 7 on the back because I want to be a team player. Because, Vince, I see the value in experience. I see the value the same way even among my peers. Carl and I had a good talk today, and Carl's, he's quite savvy on politics. He told me a lot of things that I actually took advice, and I used that advice today in real time. If I can benefit from somebody's wisdom and somebody's strength, particularly when it's somebody that's close to me or close to the issues that I'm close with, sometimes we really need somebody to just sort of. I'll give you an example. I went to church the other week. So hang on, just 1 second. I went to church the other week because I want to know, right? Because I'm out to fight government corruption, right? Local government corruption particularly. But I want to know, at what point do I defeat Goliath, and at what point do I forgive Saul? And the pastor actually said to me, Trevor, you're probably picked for this purpose, right? And he says, but the thing that you've got to remember, right, is it doesn't mean you can't be a warrior, right? You have to have righteous, right? You have to have righteous justice and not vengeance. And the thing is, if I was to be an independent, I'm kind of learning the game as I go. It's like trying to learn how to fly versus having a co-pilot with you. And when it gets a bit turbulent, you go, oh, and he goes, no, it's okay. Just level off. Oh, okay, there you go. That's why.
Yeah.
All right,
Trev.
For from one political candidate to another, or old political candidate to another, a piece of a little bit of advice, if you don't mind.
No, go.
Right, when you get a question, don't go all out on the question for 5 minutes. You'll lose the interest. Get your answer back to the people that they need, right? And then come back, because the more interaction you're going to have with people and the more you can answer their questions, the more you're going to gather.
People don't want to hear a story. They want to hear an answer.
Yeah,
that's the biggest message, mate. And while I understand it's great to tell the story, and it's important in many cases to tell the story. You tell the story in a speech, but you answer questions really, really succinctly as fast as you can, because these people don't want to stand around listening for 10, 15, 20 minutes for you to answer 1, 2, or 3 questions while they are thinking, I've got other questions I want you to answer, and you're not getting to that, and yada, yada. So you'll miss people. I offer it with the best advice, with the best intention.
Can I just ask you one thing?
Yeah.
sure.
Right. You ever had it like, can you imagine you sitting in a court and they want to hear yes or no, but it's not black or
it's
white.
Not a yes
it's
or
a
no
shade of
thing.
grey.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yes, the still succinctly is important. The more words you speak in the court, the more you can hang yourself.
Yeah. The more words you say in court, the deeper in the shit you will get yourself. Exactly right. Very good analogy. At any rate, mate, just give us your socials again so people can find you in Rippon and how they can support you going forward, hopefully with a One Nation candidacy. I would support you 100%. I think you're a wonderful bloke who would do so much for the community. You just have the heart of Ballarat, mate, and I've seen it in action on more than one occasion, and I know Becchio from Truth Seekers is another one who speaks extremely highly of you. The Victorian community you are known throughout, and certain other communities, and I don't mean that in any weird way, but as you may have heard Trev say, he's into hunting and that kind of thing. So he's got a lot of different areas that he reaches into, in not just Victoria, but outside of Victoria. But I couldn't think of a better candidate for the people of Rippon, an old area, stomping ground, if you like, of mine. I was sort of in that area in my formative years. So, Trev, good luck, brother, and we will
Thanks,
be back
guys.
to talk with you more, no doubt, if and when the election is called early.
Hang on
No
a
worries.
minute.
And thanks.
Yeah, well,
and thanks for yours.
I think it will be called early, so hopefully
It
One
will.
Nation will get their act into gear. But I do have one more quick question, and
And I'll have one quick answer.
This is the one. What do you think of Pauline's comment about a monoculture?
And that's why I had to explain it with a story this morning, because somebody was trying to box me into a racist corner. So
You
I'm
need
going
a
to give
quick
you.
answer
So
for this.
no,
You
no,
need a
so,
quick answer.
no,
Come on.
no. So I'm going to give you the answer that I gave. Right?
Okay, shoot.
I'll give you the answer that I gave, because a person pretending to be an Indian woman. I worked for a business that owned an Indian restaurant for 5 years. An Indian woman doesn't call an Australian guy mate. So this was a bot or a troll or whatever, right?
Oh, this was not live. You weren't doing face to face
on Facebook, right? No, this is on Facebook. Oh, what?
Yeah,
Oh,
right,
so you want it to be a monoculture out here? And I was like, just hang on a minute. I got a research and share Indigenous culture qualification. My daughter's great grandfather was executed by the Nazis, and the last Indian family that I know personally that went back overseas for a holiday, when they came back, they gave me a T-shirt as a souvenir. So don't try and put me in the little racist box. But if you want me to explain what that monoculture thing means, that means the same as what we had on the mines, which is literally fit in or frig off. And the concept of that is that people who want to come to Australia, right, that doesn't mean you can't practice your own religion. That means that Sunnis and Shiites aren't blowing each other up on the street like they are in other parts of the world, right? It means that you're coming to Australia to embrace the fact that your wife can have a job if she wants. She can drive a car if she wants. Your kids can play any sport that they want, right? And so forth. You've got these rights, these freedoms. Even when it comes to freedom of speech, so long as it's in, sort of the surrounds of with dignity, you're pretty free. Like, you're pretty loose in this country compared to a lot of countries. And that is the monoculture. The trouble is when people try and paint a 1-2 word answer, you can't actually encapsulate what, and actually, if you look at what Pauline Hanson said, she encapsulated it in a thing too. She didn't just say a monoculture and that's it. You can have all these different cultures and all these different religions and whatever. Like, I'm Christian, but even I know, right? When I drop dead, that's when I find out if I was right. I'm pretty sure I'm right, that God's God, right? But I'm not gonna argue with a Buddhist or a this or a that or whatever. So long as we're all, being tolerant and mature and whatever, I think that what people came for, right? Originally, one of my grandfathers came as a migrant after the Second World War. He worked on the Snowy River scheme. My uncles, they were fitters and turners. They worked at power stations. My dad joined the Navy. I was one of the first kids of the first generation riding a BMX bike. And then the lights went on, and then you had to come home and you ate dinner, and then you watched the Muppets, and Kermit told you it's not easy being green, and then you went to bed. And that was Australia, where it was good. You could get a job. My daughter's grandfather was building GT Falcons in Campbellfield. That's the Australia where people came and they worked hard and they said to the kids, go to university.
I know you're still aiming at the same thing, but you've gone into a massive. All right. So
just as an example,
you're 100% right.
Yeah, but you've given that 6 minutes worth of answer and you lost me after 90 seconds. So you've got to learn to condense what you're saying. Yeah. You've got to learn to condense what you're saying into without the stories, essentially.
Or something like this.
You need to pick the eyes out. And I'll help you with that.
Yeah.
Go.
When I'm talking about a monoculture, I'm talking about the fact that Australia had its own unique culture. Now, a multicultural is many cultures, not one. So we keep Australia's monoculture, mono meaning singular.
Gives us a rail, a guideline
This
to go
is
down.
our culture. You come here, you incorporate yourself into our culture. You do not bring your country's culture here. Some of the stuff that you bring will be incorporated, but it still will be inherited in the generic Australian culture. So monoculture is an Australian culture. End your answer. How's that?
Anyway, we're going to move on, buddy. Thank you very much for everything that you've done tonight. And like I said, I'm very happy to help you with all of this. And it's not meant as a criticism of you, but I just know what people are going to be saying. And I know how the media works. So if you're going to be able to be at the top of the pile for the media grabs and getting the exposure that a One Nation candidate needs in an election, you're going to need to learn how to fit it into a sound bite, not a sound Bible. And I can help you with that. Okay.
Good answer. All right, Trev. I hope you're not don't take that as offence, mate. It's just
something's gone wrong. His microphone's muted and I can't unmute it. Oh no, there you go. Well, there you go. So yeah, I'm happy to help you, brother.
No, you're good. I was a champion debater. If you give me 3 minutes, I'll do a whole debate in 3 minutes.
You'll take
30 minutes on a podcast.
All right.
If I've got 30 minutes, I'll take 90.
Is to have every question answered in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I could do
all right.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for coming on. Rippon is the area in Victoria where you'll be able to vote for Trevor, hopefully, as a One Nation candidate coming up. Vincenzo, big week. And looking forward to next week. Now, are you planning on having a lot of sleep before I arrive and then no sleep for the time that we're away and going to Wilmington for what will be, I believe, many people are talking about this as the party of the year happening in Wilmington. The event, which is this event, the Van Life SA Muster, coming up next weekend, 26th, 27th, 28th. A weekend at Wayno's. I can't wait to dress him up like Bernie with a bit of string from his arm and get him waving around the RC track, which will be bloody awesome. There will be a bit of RC tracking going on, both outdoor and around his very spectacular digital slot car set that he has for folks who want to go and stay there. And there's a big concert, a few other bits and pieces on. So looking forward to getting to that. That'll be this time next week. So that's where our Friday Free for All will be. What is that? Oh, cables. Lots of cables. More cables. Oh, that might mean, folks, we are going to bring...
wondering, you have to tune in Friday night to find out why we spent money on cables.
Yes.
That's called the curiosity approach.
Yeah, well done. Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. Did I have anything that was of particular note that I had to share with you other than Black Sheep's head? No, I didn't have to do that. Oh, I did. I was reading something the other day from a lovely lady named Lisa. Lisa and her husband own that truck, and I want Australians to be very aware that the changes that are coming in for heavy vehicles in this country are shocking. As a wife of a truck driver, she writes, I'm appalled by the latest increases in penalty fees imposed on drivers across Australia. Many of these fines relate to what are often minor administrative errors, mistakes that workers in most any industry could make during the course of a busy workday. Simple errors such as a spelling mistake, an incorrect date, or a line not being perfectly ruled can now result in penalties that seem completely disproportionate to the offence. I understand the laws and the regulations exist for a reason, and I fully support fatigue management and road safety. There are times when officers may exercise discretion and issue a warning for an honest mistake, but that is not always the case. The law is the law. I understand that. What concerns me is the growing financial burden being placed on an industry that is already under immense pressure. Truck drivers are constantly dealing with tight schedules, rising operating costs, delivery deadlines, compliance requirements, and the ongoing challenge of securing and maintaining contracts. For many operators, simply making a living has become a rat race. The last thing they need is another financial blow for minor paperwork errors that have no direct impact on road safety. I could not agree more. here is a list. You might not be able to see that up close. I can't. So let's have a look. These are the increases. Duty of driver to avoid driving while fatigued. Don't drive while tired. Gone up from $8,000 to $26,610. I don't know how they come up with this number, but they're using it all the way through. Duty of driver to avoid driving while unfit to drive, which is a new offence, but it is in fact exactly the same as the first offence, just worded a little bit differently. So the driver to avoid, the duty of the driver to avoid driving while fatigued, the duty of the driver to avoid driving while unfit to drive. Well, if you are fatigued and you're driving and you didn't recognise that you were fatigued and you were driving, you are automatically guilty of the second offence as well. So there you go. False or misleading fatigue entries. If you're going to cook the books, I throw the book at you. That's my idea. I don't think $26,000 is a bad fine if you're trying to cook your driving books. False representation about work records. That's the same as cooking the books. Now, false representation will come down to a spelling error because somebody pulled up on the side of the road somewhere in the middle of nowhere, misspelled Thurgamigamug, and it had an F in it that he didn't recognise, and that will be where he'll cop a $26,000 fine. Removing pages from your work diary. Yeah. If you're going to remove pages from your work diary, that's the same as false and misleading fatigue entries. But I spilled a coffee. The whole book got soggy. They just fell out. Well, put the soggy things back in once they dry. That's the advice, and stick to it. Tampering with an improvised or an approved electronic work diary. These are new to me. I haven't done an electronic work diary. But, yes, if you're going to tamper with them, get the book thrown at you. Prohibited requests. I don't know. Can I drive from one side of the country to the other with only one driver and not sleep? That'd be a prohibited request, I suppose. And prohibited contracts, amongst other things. Breach of HML, their weight limits, compliance with vehicle standards. So all of these fines, a driver can walk away with $100,000 worth of fines, all because he's got a blinker that's not working right. And he misspelled some Aboriginal name of an area that used to be called Tin Town, but now, because the Greens have got in charge and we're renaming things, it's called Hugooguba, and nobody really knows how to spell it. But they'll fine you for it.
Yeah. It's a valid name. Anyway.
Well, yeah, true. Here is where they have lowered the fines. Minor fatigue, risk of breach, solo driver, under standard hours. So if you've driven 5.5 hours, let's call it 5 hours, 35 minutes, that fine will now only cost you, instead of 5 hours, 30 minutes, that fine will now only cost you $3,980 instead of $5,300. The minor alternative, compliance hours breach, well, maybe you did that twice when they search back through your book and find that a few weeks ago you were 3 minutes late into a stop that actually took you over your 5.5 hours, 5 hours, 30 minutes allowed driving time. There's another $3,980 fine and probably points off your license as well. Operating under exemption hours, minor breach, $2,000. I gather that would be if you were driving a wide load at times where you're not meant to be driving a wide load, usually in the middle of the night, unless you are one of those big placarded runs. An electronic work diary, lost, stolen, destroyed. Notification requirement. So as soon as your work diary is gone, you've got to tell them about it. If you drive 1,000 kilometres and don't tell them that it was stolen 1,000 kilometres ago, you get a $3,980 fine. I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's hard to make a living out of it, but it's I don't disagree with that. But $26,610 fines for what are generally not very serious breaches. I'm pretty disappointed with. And so
travel quite as far as we used to in 5.5 hours. We spend 80% of our time at 80 k's because otherwise we get bounced out of the cab.
Yeah.
Right. So fix the friggin' roads.
And the roads chew up tires. Those tires, even though they're retreads in most cases on the trailers, they hit those potholes. They don't just tear a tire up. I saw one last time I was coming over to Adelaide, Vince. somewhere between Keith and Tailem Bend, or was it when you and I were driving into Adelaide? A truck had lost the entire rear bogie.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Right,
yeah.
hit a pothole, and it tore the whole rear bogie out of it. Both sets of wheels, not both sets of tyres, complete axles out of the back of the trailer.
Unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, stunning.
Yeah.
So who do they charge? Do they send a bill to the Victorian or the South Australian governments to say, or the federal government to say, hey, listen, your road's rooted. It's cost me $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, written off a trailer, lost my load, lost a contract. Who do they sue? Who do they go to? That has to change. And then, of course, the transport people will probably come along and fine him because he's dropped his bogey in an inappropriate place. So that'll be unsecured load fine. So they'll find something to nail you on. Oh, look, you've got no blinkers on your trailer. Well, I've got no wheels either. Well, no blinkers. That's another fine. Yeah, but the wheels probably hit the blinkers on the way. Well, unsecured load fine. Yeah, they just keep ticking the fine boxes. And I've had dealings with these bastards. That's why I know what they're like. Just thieves, absolute thieves. Not so much the blokes who are on the road. I'm talking about the courts. When you go in to fight it, you've got to go in to fight it because they wouldn't accept me going in via video link or anything else, and they didn't take my submission that I submitted. And therefore, I was left unrepresented in the court, and that's why they gave me the maximum fine.
Yeah, I might be
for something that is a motorhome. They don't even have jurisdiction over this vehicle, but that's what they did.
Yeah, so I might be having one of those little fights shortly too. Went through a speed camera sign where roadworks were at. The problem is that I never saw the incoming notification because I came a different entry into a hospital, and when I went out of the hospital, I went around a quick roadwork and then the speed camera and then saw the sign that said you can now go to 60.
Oh.
So if they ping me, we're going to be having a bloody argument. Anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. So heaps of stuff. I'm really impressed with the way Pauline Hanson got stuck into the crew and whatever from her major first ever maiden speech at the press club. And the press club needs to be dealing with the people who can walk in unauthorized real quickly. And outside of that, we're coming up this coming weekend, as we know, Wilmington. That means that all you guys need to go and get your T-shirts and your hats and your mugs and everything else that you can possibly think that you may require, and especially hoodies now that winter's setting in. Pretty sure I heard some rain or hail somewhere in this conversation. And go to merch at vofhq.com and purchase what you require. And we thank you for the last order that came through yesterday.
And to everybody who wanted to know about the dog, it wasn't either. I've got two dogs in here. It wasn't either of them making those noises. I think Trev must have had one, or the wife was sniffing around looking for dinner. I'm not quite sure.
It sounded like hail. Or
it did sound like hail there at one stage. You're right.
Yeah.
But the dog's name is Bella. She's not a puppy. She's 17 years old, a 17-year-old Cocker Spaniel who loved the idea of sitting on my lap for precisely the amount of time that you saw and then flopped down at my feet again. The other one, who is just come up here to have a chat, is Toothless. He's gone back now. So he's a bit bigger and too big to get on my lap. But both of them looking at me longingly, knowing full well there is some chicken in the fridge with their name on it.
Oh, half their luck. Not that you're going to get any. They get it and you don't.
I am actually going to do chicken wings in my little air fryer tonight for dinner.
Oh, okay.
So the difference will be theirs will be cold, mine won't be. They might get cooked ones too. I just won't spice them. So.
All right. Well, wonderful people. I'm going to wish you all a fantastic weekend. Looking forward to chatting with you again sometime over the next weekend, if not before. And for all of you out there, the more we can talk and the more we can bring people into this huge tidal wave, make it uncontrollable. right? Major bushfire, uncontrollable, right? Because then they won't have a chance. So from me to you, I say farewell. Hit the button, Carl.
Adieu. Well, off he goes. Wasn't listening. Kyle's coming back. Very exciting news. We could get into it. I've spoken to a few of you today who do have an interest in the radio side of it. $12.5 million is about all he could expect. He would have broken the network if he got the $80 million or that he was chasing. They're only worth $85 million now. The whole network, when they did the deal, they were worth $585 million. They've lost a lot of money. So Kyle took the money and ran. Jackie O. Henderson, on the other hand, is getting some what I would consider fairly poor advice. I don't think ARN are going to do anything but give her potentially her own show somewhere at a different time and a different hour, which will fail, and it will fail badly. Kyle did release an interview with some radio podcasters today, and I've listened to the whole thing. He's made it pretty clear he's going to be starting a new show that will be a subscription-based show. It's looking to start somewhere around August. And he doesn't need Jackie. Jackie won't be part of the show unless she's going to be a guest. And he's 100% right. Unfortunately for Jackie, that lessens her value to the industry. So we shall have to see what happens there. Now, I've just been told to check my email before I go. It's hilarious. And there are 3 friggin' links to check. So, or 2 links. I don't know. Let me have a quick look. When Becky
So while he's looking, I'll keep chatting. So what has everybody got planned? I hope you've all got excellent stuff planned coming up for this weekend. Right? Something that you're going to do or enjoy, or because you remember now, with the way things are in this country, it's the simpler things in life that's going to have to bring us the joy, because the ones that cost money, we can't do. So, yeah.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? All right. Well, yes, I've been sent a wonderful meme to close the show with. So,
okay. Well, with that, bye.
He's off. I'm off too. There might be some interesting things happening over, particularly the next 24 hours in America. The European Union has voted finally, the European Parliament has done a very significant vote. 428 to 218, I think the vote was, in favour to start sending the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, home. Send them back. Send them back. Send them back is what the European Parliament was chanting. Now, when I saw the vote was 418 to 218, I think it was, it made me wonder exactly how many votes there were in the European Parliament and why. Turns out that there are 27 countries represented in the European Parliament, but that Parliament represents the people of those countries, and therefore to have proportionate representation, they've afforded extra seats to certain countries, and to me, it doesn't sound terribly fair, but it's a lot fairer than if they didn't, I guess. If everybody had 1 vote each, I think it would probably work out. But when it comes to matters of population, and that's what this was, they managed to get 90 votes for Germany and a few other bigger countries, Italy, those sorts of places. Whereas you get down to Malta, a little place like that with a small population, they were represented by 6 votes. So somewhere along the line, this apparently all evens out. But what we should gain from it is at least it appears on face value that 418 votes in the European Parliament have finally woken up and are coming to their senses. Now, what impact that will have on Europe going further, the wider political side of the European Parliament or the European nation or whatever they call themselves, we'll just have to wait and see. Keep an eye on the price of silver over the weekend and gold. It's been very, very badly suppressed again in the last couple of days. I would expect it to have another kicking before we see it go up. But keep your eyes open, folks. Not just for the price of gold and silver, where you can go to ainsleyBullion.com.au, use my name, get a discount, but keep your eye out for the dickheads as well. See ya. Bye.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!